Hey, pencil people, this is Joel Guthrie, animator for Pencilish, specifically Bjorn the Unicorn. This is my process video for this Bjorn animation I'm doing here. So, I was inspired by a drawing that another Pencilish employee did, Naomi. She made this drawing of the Bjorn character, Becca, sitting at her table in the morning, just dead tired with her coffee, and the cat Patty. So I thought, well, I'll animate that. So that's what I'm doing here. So the first thing I did was just trace over Naomi's drawing and played around with the expression and the pose to see how far I could push this tired feeling. So after I was satisfied with the pose and expression, I started thinking, well, what do I want her to do? So I had the idea of maybe she'd do this slow blink where it's just like one eyelid at a time to really drive home that she's just like knocked out. And then I thought maybe the big action, the centerpiece of the shot would be she raises the coffee to her lips and then I guess she loses control in her neck and her head just wham, onto the table. So, after deciding on that, I drew in the keyframes, very rough, just blocking out the shapes and not worrying about making it look good. One thing I tried was actually animating the leg and the upper body on different layers, so that I wouldn't have to redraw her whole body when just her leg is moving. And similar with, like, when she blinks, or when she raises the coffee to her face, like, I tried to save time by only animating the part of her body that's moving and then copy-pasting the rest of her body. So I put in the important poses, like coffee on the table, coffee to her lips, head on the table. And then, when I showed it to Tom for approval, he suggested also animating Patty, the cat. I just sort of animated her being jolted awake by Becca's head falling on the table while Patty's trying to fall asleep, and then she just sort of glares at Becca resentfully. So I employed the famous animation principle of squash and stretch by having her squash down in anticipation and then stretch up when she's like shocked and like, yeah, reacting to the big noise. And then she overshoots, squashes down again, and returns to her original position. And now I'm in the cleanup phase, where I pretty much figured out the motion in the rough phase, and now I am going over it with clean line work that looks nice, and putting everything on model so the characters look like the way they're supposed to. Again, the hair was a big challenge, especially in cleanup, because in rough I could just pretty much draw the hair as like a formless mop, but in the cleanup pass I have to make sure, I have to keep track of like every little bit of the hair to make sure it stays consistent from frame to frame. So I had to figure out how I was going to finalize the shape of the hair and then track every little piece as it falls forward and drags behind. This is also the stage where I add all the in-betweens. So in the rough stage, I just basically figured out the very basic timing, and I didn't put every single drawing in because that would be a waste of time for the most part. But at this stage, I am putting everything on twos, which means one drawing every 2 frames in a 24 frame per second shot. So, whereas in the rough stage, I might have given 8 frames to her head just slightly sliding forward, I have to make those all into 2 frames. And what that will achieve is what is called a slow out, which I thought was very appropriate for this shot because I kind of wanted her head to very, very slowly just start to fall, just kind of slip forward, and then very quickly, wham, falls onto the table. And so after I finished with the cleanup phase, I wanted to create a clean version of Naomi's background in Photoshop. So I took Naomi's drawing and I traced over it, and corrected some perspective issues with the table and the chair, and I made sure to export the table and the chair as separate elements so that I could have some parts of the animation be in front of the table and some parts of it be behind the table. And so, after I finished recreating the background in Photoshop, I plugged it into Toon Boom Harmony and ordered the layers so that all the right elements were in front of and behind what they needed to be in front of and behind of. And then I entered the color phase where I go through each drawing and color it in. And coloring in is super easy in Toon Boom Harmony because it will automatically detect spaces you can fill in to color, and you can basically just fill tool everything instead of having to color all of it by hand. And you can also switch out colors very easily. So, if I wanted to make Becca's hair color darker, I don't have to go through and fill tool everything in all over again from scratch. I can literally just click on the color I have in that little sidebar, change it in the color picker, and it will change it for all the drawings. And so here is the final animation. And go Pencilish, invest, subscribe, comment, like, do all the good stuff, alright?